In part 1, we hunted a ghost, and we brought him down. Hogzilla, 658 pounds of brute force and intelligence, was the kind of beast you hear about in whispers. That night, he fell. But not without Keith. My Uncle David, the best hog trapper I've ever known, had tracked thousands across 3 states. But even he couldn't stop what came next. The steel trap jammed, just slow enough to let the rest of the herd escape. And escape they did, vanishing into the dark, learning, adapting. For 2 weeks, not a single hog returned to that field. That was our warning. The old ways weren't enough anymore. So tonight, we don't set traps, we mount guns. Thermal scopes, belt-fed firepower, and a truck built for war. My cousin Eston farms this land, and what we don't stop tonight, he'll pay for tomorrow. This isn't a hunt, it's a counterattack. And the question is, will 500 rounds be enough? I didn't grow up thinking we'd be riding into our own fields with thermal scopes and mounted machine guns. But here we are. Because when feral hogs show up, they don't just take crops, they take time, money, and peace of mind. My cousin Eston farms this land. 3 generations of his family worked these 800 acres. His grandfather cleared the original timber by hand. His father survived the drought of '84. Now the Eston fights a different kind of disaster, one that arrives in darkness and leaves destruction by dawn. You see that section there? He points to a muddy wasteland where neat corn rows used to stand. Planted that twice this season. They hit it both times. That's 4,100 in seed, fuel, and labor. Gone. His voice carries the weight of a man watching his inheritance disappear one field at a time. Last year, his county lost over $2.3 million to hog activity. But those numbers don't capture what I see in Eston's face when he surveys the damage each morning. The exhaustion, the anger, the determination that keeps him planting despite knowing they might return. Sarah wakes up every morning asking if they came back, he tells me, referring to his 8-year-old daughter. She knows the sound of my boots on the porch at 5 a.m. means we lost another field. The breeding math is merciless. 1 sow, 12 piglets, 2 litters per year. We took 80 head last season. Sounds impressive until you realize we're barely keeping pace with their reproduction rate. Tonight, the method changes. No bait, no gates, no waiting for them to come to us. We're taking the fight directly to them. Eston's modified F-350 sits in the shed like a mechanical predator. Hard-mounted in the bed, an M240 Bravo, a 7.62 NATO belt-fed machine gun designed for battlefield suppression. Beside it, the lighter M259 saw, chambered in 5.56. Every tool has its purpose, my cousin Rich explains, checking the belt feeds. The Bravo for distance work, the saw for close encounters. But the real preparation isn't mechanical, it's mental. Eston loads magazines with the methodical precision of a man who understands that every missed shot tonight means more damage tomorrow. His hands shake slightly, not from nerves, but from exhaustion. He's been fighting this war for 3 years straight. You know what keeps me up at night? He says, inserting the final rounds. It's not just the money. It's knowing that if I don't stop them here, they'll hit Johnson's place next week. Then the Millers. This thing spreads like cancer. As we perform final equipment checks, Eston's phone buzzes. A text from his wife. Kids are asleep, stay safe, kill them all. Even the families understand what's at stake. Let's roll, Eston says, climbing into the cab. Whatever we don't stop tonight, my daughter will be fighting when she's my age. The night doesn't announce itself in Texas. It just settles, turning familiar farmland into hostile territory. We start slow, truck whispering over damp earth. No headlights, just 5 men watching thermal screens and the red glow of battery indicators. Through the windshield, Eston surveys his wounded land. That patch there used to be my best producing section, he murmurs. Grandmother's vegetable garden was right where you see all that churned mud. Cameron spots them first on thermal. Group at 2 o'clock, maybe 15. They're working the fence line. Eston's jaw tightens. That's my winter wheat. If they root through the root system, the whole section dies. The economic calculation runs through his head automatically. $1,800 in seed, another $900 in preparation and planting. Through the thermal optic, the herd glows white hot, tusks glinting, unaware they're being watched. But I'm watching Eston too. His knuckles are white on the steering wheel. This isn't sport for him. This is survival. Now, I whisper. Cameron opens fire and burst. Controlled bursts walking through the group. The saw chatters. I follow with the Bravo, the heavy gun roaring against my shoulder. Through the scope, heat signatures drop one by one. Eston leans out the passenger window with his M4, taking careful shots at the stragglers. That big sow there, he mutters, tracking a target. She's been hitting my fields for months. I recognize the rooting pattern. The engagement lasts 90 seconds. When the shooting stops, 12 bodies lie motionless in the thermal image. First payment, Eston says grimly, but they never travel alone. Which region are you watching this video from? Drop your location in the comments below. We'd love to know where our Tech Motion community is tuning in from today. The second sounder appears 20 minutes later, larger and more scattered. But this time, everything that can go wrong does. I'm out, Cameron shouts. The saw's belt runs dry mid-burst. I fumble for the next ammunition strip, but mud and adrenaline make my fingers clumsy. The belt jams. Uncle Sean takes over the M240 with veteran steadiness, but a large boar breaks through our coverage, charging directly at the truck. Eston fires from the cab. 1, 2, 3 shots, dropping it just yards from the front bumper. Jesus, he breathes. If that had gotten under the axle, the unspoken truth hangs in the air. A broken truck in the middle of a field means walking out. And walking out means leaving the hogs to finish destroying his crops. We clear the jam, reload, and continue. But the delay has cost us. Several hogs scatter into the brush, escape threats that will return with reinforcement. Final count for this engagement. 9 confirmed kills. 3 escapees. Eston stares at the tree line, where the survivors disappeared. Those 3 will remember this night, he says. They'll be twice as hard to catch next time. The learning curve goes both ways. Have you ever faced a moment when critical equipment failed right when you needed it most? Share your fear or story in the comments. As we reload and reposition, Eston shares what most people don't understand about feral hogs. They adapt. First time I hunted this field, they scattered like chickens, he explains, guiding the truck along a muddy trail his grandfather cut 60 years ago. Now, they post sentries. They change routes. One group draws attention while another flanks around. We find the third sounder near his equipment shed. 20+ animals systematically destroying his stored grain. But they're not feeding randomly. They've organized. See how they're positioned? Eston points through the thermal scope. Juveniles in the center, adults watching the perimeter. That big sow there, she's the scout. She'll bolt first to draw our fire. The tactical situation has evolved. We're not just hunting animals anymore. We're conducting military operations against an intelligent enemy that learns from every encounter. Eston positions the truck for maximum coverage. My grandfather built that shed with his own hands, he says, chambering around. I'll be damned if I let them tear it down. The engagement is swift and decisive. The hogs scatter, but this time we're ready for their tactics. Uncle Sean tracks the flankers with the Bravo, while I cover the center mass. Eston and Cameron handle the runners. When the gunfire stops, 17 bodies lie scattered around the shed. No escapees this time. But as we count the dead, Eston's expression remains grim. For everyone we kill, there's 3 more we haven't seen yet, he says, and they're all taking notes. If you found this video fascinating and worth watching, comment 1 below. If not, be honest. Comment 0. Dawn comes gray and cold. Fog clings to the field as we walk among the scattered carcasses. 38 hogs total. At market processing rates, roughly 5,700 worth of meat that will go to local food banks. But Eston isn't calculating profit. He's assessing damage. This section's a total loss, he says, kicking at churned earth where winter wheat once grew in neat rows. I'll have to disc it under and start over. His voice carries the weight of financial calculations, lost seed, wasted diesel, delayed planting schedules. We load the carcasses methodically. Each represents a small victory in a larger war that never truly ends. As we finish, Eston's phone rings. It's his neighbor, Johnson, calling from 2 miles south. They hit my corn last night, Johnson reports. Looks like a whole damn battalion came through. Eston closes his eyes. We pushed them off our place, he tells me after hanging up. Right into his. This is the reality of feral hog management. Victory in one field often means defeat in another. The problem doesn't disappear. It relocates. Tomorrow night, we'll be at Johnson's place, Eston says, watching the sun rise over land his family has worked for 3 generations. And the night after that, probably the Millers. The war never ends. It just changes battlefields. How do you solve a problem that just moves from farm to farm? Let us know what you think in the comments. By 7 a.m., we're back at the shed. Guns cleaned, equipment secured, truck hosed down. Everything looks normal again except for the mud-stained clothes and the exhaustion in Eston's eyes. People think farming is planting and harvesting, he says, sipping coffee that's gone cold. They don't see this part. The part where you fight for every acre, every season, every year. Across Texas, over 2.6 million feral hogs cause 400 million in agricultural damage annually. Tonight's success, 38 hogs eliminated, represents roughly 5% of the statewide population. But Eston understands something that statistics can't capture. Every hog stopped tonight is 12 piglets that won't be born this spring. It's one less breeding cycle, one less damaged field, one less sleepless night wondering if your life's work will survive until harvest. My daughter asks me why we have to do this, he says, watching the distant tree line where survivors might still be hiding. I tell her it's not about us, it's about the land, about making sure there's still something left for her children to inherit. The real weapon isn't thermal scopes or belt-fed machine guns. It's persistence. It's showing up, night after night, to defend what generations before us built. This isn't heroic, Eston adds, emptying his coffee cup. It's just necessary. And tomorrow night, when the reports come in from neighboring farms, we'll load the truck again. Because the land doesn't defend itself. That's our job. If you've watched this far, you understand something most people miss. This isn't about hunting for sport. It's about survival. About protecting a way of life that feeds communities and preserves family legacies. What happened tonight wasn't exceptional. Across rural America, farmers fight the same battle every season, often alone, always understaffed, never truly finished. Eston's 8-year-old daughter will inherit this land someday. Whether she inherits the problems, too, depends on what we do tonight, and tomorrow night, and every night after that. The war against feral hogs isn't won with single battles. It's won with persistence, community support, and the understanding that some fights never truly end. They just pass to the next generation. So part 2 comes to a close, but this story continues. In upcoming episodes, we'll follow other farmers facing different invasive species, explore new technologies in agricultural defense, and witness the evolving tactics of America's rural guardians. If this meant something to you, share it with someone who believes in protecting what matters. We'll see you out there. This is Tech Motion, where American determination never surrenders.